Hey everybody, so today's video is going to be about consumer and producer burden. So I already drew our market in equilibrium, so this is what it looks like before any tax is imposed, right? And so from here, from last week, we knew that the consumer surplus was this area right here, right above P star, below the demand curve, and the producer surplus was the area below P star and above the supply curve. Right, so now when a tax is imposed, you're going to see that that area changes, right? And along with that, we're going to get a consumer and producer burden, which is going to be way different than the surplus, right? Consumer and producer surplus is different from consumer and producer burden. So say we have a 30-cent tax is imposed. Right, so what does that do to our supply curve again? Well, it decreases it like this. We have S tax, right? And then we're going to get a couple new points, so we'll label the intersection. Can draw the line down. So we have P tax here, right? And then we also have Q tax up here. So let's give them numbers. So we'll say Q star is $10, Q tax is now $8, P star, we'll say this was $2, and this is going to make P tax $2.20, and then we're also going to have this point right here, which is our P tax minus tax. And this is going to be, let me scooch this. This is going to be $1.90. Okay. Right, so this is what it's going to look like after our tax is imposed, right? We have this little rectangle area, and then we also have this triangle area, right? So we're going to discuss what these are. So let's start with the top, right? So we know that the area in between here, so above P star and below P tax minus tax, this little area right here, all the way up to Q tax, right? This is our consumer burden. I'm going to put CB, right, for consumer burden. Put this here, CB, consumer burden. Right, and then we have another area that's right over here. So this is going to be our producer burden, right? So PB, producer burden. Right, so we can calculate each of these, right? So for the consumer burden, we know that consumers are going to be paying an extra 20 cents per unit, right? Because before they were paying P star, and next they're going to be paying P tax, right? After the tax is imposed, they're paying P tax, so they're paying an extra 20 cents per unit to make up for the tax, right? And then we also see that producers, they're going to give up 10 cents per unit, so they're now earning 10 cents less, right? Before they were getting $2, now after the tax they're only getting $1.90. Right, so we can write this out. Let me scooch this down just a little bit so you can still see most of it. Right, so we can, this is important, right? We can note that consumers pay an extra 20 cents per unit, right? This is from $2.20 minus $2, right? And so if they're paying, excuse me, if they're paying an extra 20 cents per unit, right, we can see that we're producing 8 units, so then that can turn into 20 cents times 8, which this is $1.60, right? And then we can do the same, we can say the same for producers, right? Producers give up 10 cents per unit, right? So this is from $2 minus $1.90, right? Because before they were getting $2 for what they were selling. Now they're only getting $1.90 from the tax, right? After the tax was imposed. So we can do the same thing. This is per unit, right? 10 cents per unit. So this ends up being 10 cents multiplied by the 8 units that we're producing. This is 80 cents, right? And then what is this whole rectangle area called, right? So we know that this is the tax revenue, this whole thing, right? So that gives us, so that tells us that our tax revenue is equal to, well, it's simply these two things added together, right? It's simply the CB, consumer burden, plus producer burden, right? This was $1.60 plus, oops, can't see this, plus 80 cents, right? So this gives me $2.40, right? So that's a simple, it's not too bad, right? It's pretty simple. It's just when you add your consumer burden and your producer burden, you get the tax revenue, right? And you can also do this differently. You can also just multiply 8 times the difference between $2.20 and $1.90, right? So that would be 8 times 30, which should also be $2.40, right? 8 times 30 cents is $2.40. But you can also just add it separately, figure out the consumer burden separately, producer burden separately, add those together, and you're just going to get the same thing, right? So that leaves us with one more thing, right? We also have this triangle area right over here, which you already know is the deadweight loss, right? DWL, deadweight loss, right? So these are just the benefits that are lost due to a decrease in production, right? Because before we were producing at Q star, after the tax is imposed, we're now only producing at Q tax, right? So we lost 2 whole units, and because of that, right, there's going to be some deadweight loss. So it's really just the benefits that are lost due to the decrease in the production. Right, so let's write that down. Okay, right, so we have deadweight loss. So these are, right, this is the benefits that are lost due to a decrease or reduction, right? Decrease in production, right? So we can say Q star, or produced Q star before, now only Q tax, right? So we decreased a whole 2 units. We went from 10 to 8 units, right? So how do we calculate this? Well, this is it's a triangle, right? So the area of a triangle is 1/2. So we can say area equals 1/2 base times height, right? So 1/2, what's our base? Oops. Sorry about that. Our base is going to be, hold on, give me a second to straighten this out. Okay, right, our base is going to be the difference between 10 and 8, so it's 10 minus 8, right? And then what about our height? I hope you're not getting, like, seasick from this. So the height is going to be $2.20 minus $1.90, right? Because the height is right here. We're looking at, like, this times this. Or, sorry, not that. My bad, that's the tax revenue. We're looking at, like, this times this, right? So it's 10 minus 8 is our base, so our base is 2, and then our height is going to be $2.20 minus $1.90, right, from right here, because we're trying to find the area of the triangle, right? Okay, I'll just try to stop moving it so you're not going to get seasick. $2.20 minus $1.90, right? This gives me 1/2 times 2 times, this is 30 cents, right? And then this should give me, well, 1/2 times 2 is just 1 times 30 cents is just 30 cents, right? So 30 cents is our dead weight loss, right? And then, so another important thing to know here, right, is our consumer surplus and producer surplus, right? So what happened to both our consumer surplus and producer surplus when the tax is imposed. Well, so we see, right, before, consumer surplus is everything above P star, below the demand curve, but now, right, we're paying P tax. We're paying 20 cents higher than what we were paying before. So now, like logically, right, our consumer surplus is everything above this line right here and below the demand curve. So it's just shifted to being this right here. Consumer surplus, I'll say post-tax, right? After the tax, this is our new consumer surplus. It used to be everything including right here, right? It used to be including all of this stuff down here, but we lost this to this area to the consumer burden. We lost this to the deadweight loss, right? So we're only left with this little area, right? So we know that the consumer surplus decreased after the tax. So what happened to the producer surplus after the tax? Well, we also know that before the tax, the producer surplus was everything below P star and above the supply curve, but now after the tax, right, their producers are only receiving $1.90, so their surplus is everything below P tax minus tax, so below $1.90 and above supply curve. So it's now only this region right here, right? So this is our PS post-tax. Right, so hopefully this all makes sense. It's definitely important to realize that there's a difference between consumer and producer surplus and consumer and producer burden, right? Those are two different things. Make sure you know how to identify consumer and producer surplus before and after the tax, because that's going to make a difference, and also make sure you know how to find the tax revenue and the deadweight loss. Hopefully this was helpful.